Welcome everyone. My name is Cindy Turner and I'm one of the part-time college counselors here, and I'll go ahead and introduce our team. We've got Jessica Smith, a full-time counselor, Anne Marie McAfee, also full-time, and then both of them, full-time and then some. And Jen Taffman, you know, she wears lots of hats, and one of her hats is to help our team. She does a lot of communications and research for our team, so we're very happy to have her. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I know Tuesday nights it's tricky, you guys are busy, but we really appreciate you coming to hear more about our program and learn about how we approach college and career planning here at CSD. We will have a PowerPoint in just a moment. It's small. We're in this room because of Tuck Everlasting going on in the high school black box. I peeked in there, it was awesome. So in there we have a much bigger screen. This is tiny, especially if you're in your back. You won't be able to see a lot of the words up here, but we will post this definitely on our blog. It'll probably be on the Crier, or the Crier will say it's on the blog.
It'll just be on the blog.
Just on the blog.
Which will post on the Crier.
Yes. Fun. So there will be a video of tonight's presentation as well. So don't feel like you have to write everything down. You can relive the magic as much as you want, forever and ever. So Jen will post that up probably in the next couple of days usually. She's great at that. So yes. And we'll show you the blog address in just a minute. We'd love for you all to follow us on the blog. We get very excited when we get new followers, just like the kids. So, raise your hand if you are a 9th grade parent. All right, 10th grade parents? You guys are like, how'd you know that? So, 9th grade over here, 10th grade over here. Good, now raise your hand if this is, if the child you're here representing is your oldest, or the first one to go through this process. Okay, any veterans in the room who've done this before? Okay, good. So you'll look, when we're talking, you can look around at them and they'll be nodding and going, so some are farther along in the process, and we know everyone comes at this with all sorts of feelings. Excitement, a little freaking out that we're actually talking about this, because your kid was in 5th grade yesterday, right? And how can this even be a thing? I know I'm getting there. I have a 5th grader already, and I'm already starting to see this is going to happen fast. So trying to appreciate those days. So we know there's a lot of emotions in the room: anxiety, fear, joy, excitement, all sorts of things. It's a mixture. Your kids feel that way too. They're super excited to think about what's coming after high school, and they're scared, and they're nervous about leaving home, and there's all these emotions. And you know, when you're an adolescent, emotions get amplified. And it's also an ironic time, because the time of their lives when they need to listen to your wisdom the most, because you've been through this, is the time they don't really want to hear you at all, or anything you have to say. So it's good to make sure they have adults in their lives that they trust and will listen to, and you can feed little wisdom through other people. That can work sometimes too. All right, we're up. So, So I forgot to mention, Anne Marie is over last names M through Z, so the end of the alphabet. Jessica does A through L, so you can know who your assigned counselor is. Here are the resources we want to make sure you know about. The first one is the blog. It's called nextstepscsd.wordpress.com. This blog has articles in it that are geared to different grade levels. It has parent articles. It has announcements. It has all sorts of presentations that we've done in past year and this year. So we hope that you will go to the blog, be a follower, and then you will get notification whenever we add something to that blog, so you can stay in touch with us. There's also a Facebook page. We have a CSD Twitter, 2 of those. And then, of course, the CSD Crier. So there's a lot of information around college and career planning, and we do our best to make it easy for you to find that information. You can't see this. I can barely see this. But here we go. How we guide students toward their best fit. Joy used to come to all of these back like the first 2 years. I think she trusts us now and she doesn't show up every time, but she used to say something that I loved. She said, at CSD in kindergarten, we really want it to be a magical experience and to be something wonderful that kids look back on with a magical kind of memory. And we want to take that same feeling into the future planning process, that it feels magical, that students are enjoying this and not approaching this with fear. Excuse me. So we really talk about best fit. So you'll hear us say next steps a lot instead of college, because we honor and acknowledge that everyone's on a different kind of journey. We've got kids doing all sorts of amazing things. So we call it the next steps planning. And we deliver that through a lot of different ways. The biggest one is seminar. Raise your hand if you've heard your kids talk about Friday seminars. Okay, it's pretty good, sort of. So every Friday, we'll talk more about what goes on in 9th and 10th grade seminar, but they're going to be hearing from us around the college and career planning process all 4 years, really, in their Friday seminar classes. Informational workshops like tonight is another way we deliver that. Individual meetings in junior year. That doesn't mean you have to wait until junior year if you have a question or concern to meet with a counselor, but we are very intentional about that process starting in junior year. We find that's a good time to start. 9th grade, they don't want to talk about it, they're not ready. 10th grade, some are ready, some are just still super scared of the whole idea, but by junior year they really do need to be ready for that. U-visits is a term we use for teacher work days in high school. U-visits means you're off school, you can go visit a college, and so you visit. There's some coming up. So we'll talk more about those and when they are, but if you hear the term U-visits, that's the high school term for teacher workday. College reps at CSD. Some of you may have already had students do this, but we've had how many this fall? 50? About 50 colleges. College reps come here. I know this week alone we've had Vanderbilt, Vassar's tomorrow. I can name them all day. There's a ton of schools that come here. They want to meet with our students. They want to tell our students about their colleges. It's a great opportunity for students during lunch. They're not missing a class. It's almost always during lunch. And they can go in, no pressure, just hear from a college rep. It saves you a little travel time and some expense to go learn about some schools, hear about things they haven't heard about before. So we bring tons and tons of reps in here. So you can see, we'll talk about Naviance later tonight, how you can find the list of which colleges are visiting. And you can also request a certain school. We can reach out to them and invite them if they're not already listed. Internships and independent study. These will become available to your students as they get a little bit older in high school. And this is a great way for students to explore their interests, take some ownership of their learning, and really get outside the box and think about what they love. And it oftentimes leads to some investigation and discovery about careers and majors. So we use that as well. And then the parent book talk I'll talk about later. And I do want to read a quote from our mission statement, because it's good. In guiding students towards the next chapter of their lives, we honor each student's individuality and potential by sharing their hopefulness, celebrating their aspirations, identifying possibilities, and opening doors. So that's what we see our role here as. So the 4-year career and college counseling plan, we really have a theme for each year of high school. And for 9th grade, the theme is expose. We just want them to start hearing about what's out there. When they come into 9th grade, they know about the colleges that maybe parents went to, the colleges that they know through sports that they root for, the jerseys they wear, the celebrities in football and basketball, and maybe a few they've heard of in movies, some of the Ivies. And that's mostly it for most students. So we try to just expose them to more that's out there, expose them to careers that fit different subjects they might be interested in. And in 10th grade, we get them to explore a little more. They learn more about how to research colleges, how to dig into their best fit schools. And then in 11th grade, they're getting more engaged, they're visiting colleges, they're just doing a lot more personally on their personal path as they look at majors, careers, and colleges. And then in 12th grade, they're evaluating their options. They're applying, they're getting into schools, and they're making that choice. And it goes by fast. It's exciting, but they do get to a point where they're ready to evaluate their options. So that's what our 4-year plan looks like. All right.
So those seminars that Cindy was talking about are opportunities for us to sit with every high school student we have once a week, usually twice a month with the way our Fridays work, but at least twice a month, one time a week, to really give them a chance to explore different things, to learn different things, to kind of get that high school 101 that you just hope that they'll pick up somewhere along the way. Well, this is the place we've kind of crammed everything in there for them to get. In 9th grade, it really focuses on that transition to high school. So really getting a good sense of what high school is all about, what are the tools that are going to help you be most successful. We try not to use the words college too much right away, because as Cindy was saying, most 9th graders, their heads aren't there yet. They're just wondering who they're going to sit with at lunch and still trying to prove they're not 8th graders anymore. Around January, they finally become 9th graders, we promise. So really the big point of 9th grade seminar is really just transition and to kind of subtly give them the tools that are really prepping them for their next steps without it being in their face and kind of ramping up that stress level so soon. So for the first half of the semester, it really focuses on transitioning, good study habits, being a part of this greater community, and really just instilling those great values and those building blocks that are going to make them really great students. The second half of the year, we bring in the reproductive health and safety education unit, everyone's favorite part of the year. And so that, coupled with the PE class that they take, either their 9th grade year or another point during the year, gives them that full credit, that state requirement for their health and PE without them having to sit through, we all can flash back to our high school days of the health PE class that we sat through. This is much more, we hope, a much more effective and efficient, I don't know, I'm losing my words, a better way for them to do that and to really get some really great material out of everything. In 10th grade, we really spent a lot of time exploring their interests. So once again, we're still not trying to shove college down their throats, because some of them aren't ready yet, some of them are. But we really capitalize on figuring out what you like to do and how that relates to courses you take, how that relates to hobbies you might have, how that relates to an internship or an independent study you might want to do in the future, how that could relate to a part-time job. And yeah, towards the end of the year, we start tying those to, okay, well, if you wanted to go into that field, here are some things you might want to study when you get out of school. But still, we're trying to really meet them in a place where they're comfortable, and that's who they are and what their interests are. So really spending some time digging into that. We have a lot of fun surveys and different assessments they do through Naviance, and those are things that, as parents, once you get on Naviance, you can kind of see the results and see what occupations they're leaning towards. And the big thing we talk to them about are looking for patterns. So, some students will say, oh, I got custodian, or I got, jailman, or, like I got all these things. We're like, okay, well, you probably like order, you probably like following rules and this and that. And so really we're talking to them about kind of the patterns that are popping up in all of these surveys, and really just giving them a chance to really dig into who they are and hopefully broaden their perspective a little bit, because a lot of times when we ask them at the beginning of seminar, okay, well, what do you want to be when you grow up, or those kind of questions, they all have in their mind, okay, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. And so hopefully by the end of sophomore seminar, they may still want to be in that field, but they might know of some different professions within that field at least, or some different nuances of medicine or of science or things like that. So that way they're not so boxed into, well, this is the only thing I can be, so I'm not going to look at anything else. The next few years of high school, I'm so set on this being the only path that's for me. So we really hope to give them some broader perspectives throughout that 10th grade year. For 9th grade parents, if you would like to review the curriculum online, like I said, we'll be posting this, so you don't have to try to write down that long link right there. But we'll be posting this slides on our blog. It's on the high school website under counseling, under seminar, under first year seminar, and then you can try to follow the rabbit trail down there. But you're welcome to review the curriculum at any point. We're going to have a drop-in Q&A session that first week of December before breaks. That way, any lingering questions, we welcome those and to have a discussion, because it ultimately is a family choice as to what you guys want to do as a family, and conversations that should happen at home too, as well as at school. So we don't want this to just be something they do for 45 minutes on a Friday they never talk about ever again. So we really want to make sure this is a good conversation starter for you and your family. All right, so just to kind of give you guys a heads up as to what's to come, when you start thinking about, okay, well, I have this 9th grader, I have this 10th grader, I want to make sure that they're doing everything they can to prepare themselves for that next step, because they may not be ready to think about it yet, but I'm totally thinking about it every day, every night I'm thinking about it. So really, the main things that colleges are looking for when they are evaluating students to find out if they're going to be a good fit for their school. One of the top things that a lot of schools are looking at are the courses that you're taking. So are you taking and doing well in the most rigorous coursework that your school provides? So are you taking those honors classes? Are you taking those AP classes? And how are you doing in those classes? And that's not to say that every college expects every student to start off all honors, all APs, 9th grade, make straight A's all the way through. I mean, that would be awesome, right, if that happens, but that's not what colleges expect to see. They expect to see an upward trend because they know that for the first half of the year, they're still 8th graders. They're still working their way into being high school students. So they expect that. So, if you're a 10th grade parent and you're thinking, oh, 9th grade, that was kind of rough for my student, it's okay. They're gonna get into college, they're gonna be just fine. It is that upward trend that colleges like to see as well. Grades matter, so they want to make sure that you're not just taking all those tough classes to take them and scraping by in those tough classes with D's and C's. You want to make sure that you're doing well in those classes too. At CSD, you guys aren't aware of it yet, but you probably are from registration, but we have a limit on our AP courses. So in 9th grade, no students take AP courses. You can take honors courses. In 10th grade, you can take up to 1 AP course. In your junior year, you can take 2. In your senior year, you can take 3. We did a lot of research on that before putting that policy into place. Ran it by a lot of colleges, some state schools, some private schools, some highly selective schools, some moderately selective schools, and got some really great feedback. This allows students to really dive into what is important to them and not kind of get caught up in that hamster wheel of, okay, well, I have to take 7 APs this year because the person sitting next to me is taking 8. And if I don't take as many as they do, or if I don't take almost as many as they do, then they're going to have a 1/10 of a point higher of a GPA than I will. Since we don't rank, that kind of helps diffuse a little bit of that stress too. But we have great conversations with students all the time about how to give them that rigor without it being an AP course. So those internships, those independent studies, volunteer work, things like that are other ways to add in that meaningful rigor that colleges like to see, and not just to have that AP label tacked on the course. Standardized testing for a lot of schools is part of the factor that they look at too. Fairtest.org is a great website for all the colleges that are test optional or test flexible. So they've kind of acknowledged that testing isn't the end-all be-all for college admissions or college readiness assumptions. But some colleges still use that. So in 10th grade, all students will take the pre-ACT. They're getting ready to take that towards the end of October. And that's the practice for the ACT that they'll take their junior year. All juniors will take the PSAT, the practice SAT, in October as well. For some sophomores, it may be a good fit for them to take the PSAT in their sophomore year to kind of give them some extra practice. Students that are okay kind of knowing that, all right, I know that I haven't had all the classes yet, but I want to just kind of see what this thing's all about and can kind of take whatever score they get with a grain of salt, then that might be a good fit for them. And then when they go into their junior year, that's kind of where they'll hit the ground running with SAT and ACT and taking some of those college readiness tests. So hopefully they're done early in their senior year, if not before that, and they can be done with all that, and you can be done with all that stress too. Recommendations are a big part of college applications as well, so really helping to encourage them to form those relationships with their teachers. Typically those are going to be junior year teachers, so they haven't had those teachers yet, but they'll be asking for recommendations, but practicing, communicating with teachers, being able to advocate for yourself, asking for help, knowing that relationship matters is something good they can start learning now. So that way when they get to their junior year, they already are old, they're old pros at that, and they'll have no problem thinking of which teacher that they would want to ask to write a recommendation for them. Essays, every student's favorite thing to do, right? Write essays. You guys as parents right now can kind of start a little file in your head of, ooh, this could be a good topic for an essay later on. Don't tell them that in the moment, because they're not going to want to hear that. But we do that too. Like we hold on to little nuggets that we see in 9th and 10th grade, and we've used those for our recommendation letters. So those are definitely things that you guys can do as parents. Start thinking of, ooh, that was a really disappointing time for my student, but how they persevered through that was amazing. I'm going to remind them of that 2 years from now, when it's not so raw and not so fresh. Or you really made a big impact on this person's life when you volunteered here or did that. So those are kinds of things that you can start kind of storing away. Because the students might not be ready to store those away quite yet, but you guys as parents can definitely keep track of that. And then some of the other factors that for some schools are considered interviews, if they have those, and we'll do a lot of prep work with students when it comes time for that. Activities, make sure that students are keeping track of what they're doing. In seminar and on Naviance, we are teaching them how to keep that resume on Naviance. Starting in their sophomore year, we get into Naviance a lot. In 9th grade, we don't do so much with them just because sometimes Schoology and, well, you guys all know all of our drama we've had with the Wi-Fi so far this year. I'm sure your students have come home a little grumbly about that. So we try to get away from a little bit of technology in 9th grade seminar just to take that stressor out of there. But we definitely give them good opportunities in school to work on their resumes and kind of just stockpile everything they're doing. So that's another place that you guys as parents can be really great helps in just helping remind them what all they've done. So that way, when it comes time to start filling out those applications in senior year, they're not trying to remember back to 9th grade to what all they did. Oh, and then character. So all applications ask about suspensions in school, out of school, things like that. So make sure you're having those conversations with your students if they're prone to be sent up front. A lot of what we do here are interventions. So a lot of times it doesn't turn into an actual suspension that goes on their record. But that is something that can happen and has happened. Once again, there's not going to be one sole thing that's going to keep you out of college. A lot of times they just want you to tell them about it and what you learned from it and how you grew from that. So it's not something to be like, oh, well, I messed up one time. I got, 1 day of ISS for skip a class and I'm never going to go to college. That's not true. But we do want to make sure that they know that is going to be part of what goes on to colleges too. So however you want to weave that into family conversations. Another thing to kind of keep in mind, National Honor Society is an opportunity they'll have to apply for after their sophomore year based on their unweighted GPA. So that's another reason to really make sure that you're tackling appropriately rigorous courses for yourself. So that way, if this is something that your students are shooting for, they'll be in a good spot with their GPA. And just to kind of give you a heads up as to what we're looking for with that, the 4 pillars of National Honor Society are leadership, character, service, and scholarship. And certainly that scholarship, big part of that is the GPA. But then also, when it gets time for the application itself, how you're filling out the application. For a lot of students, this is the first kind of application they're filling out. So really learning how to do that in a professional manner, in a timely manner, make sure you have everything turned in on time. For the character, that really falls back on teacher recommendations and your recommendation from your advisor. So when they say, hey, especially for your sophomore parents, we're not doing anything this advisory Friday, there's really nothing going on, I don't need to be there. They do. There's always stuff going on advisory Fridays. So that's a big part of the character recommendation is, are you showing up? Are you engaging in service? Are you being an active participant? So that's a big part of that. Leadership. We have some great clubs that have already been started here, but we're also in a really great spot to have more clubs started too. We just had a club fair today. So if your student didn't come home talking about the club fair, tell them they should walk down Learning Street and walk in the Arts Commons, yeah. Learning Street. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, a lot of students came by and looked at booths. Student government kind of oversees all of the clubs, so they can always get in touch with student government if they miss that to see what all clubs are available, or if they have an idea of a club they want to start. Grab a couple friends and get a faculty advisor, and you can start your own club. And then service is really looking at what you're doing outside of what you're asked to do at school. So how are you serving in your community?
And this is 9th and 10th grade cumulative GPAs at the end of 10th grade. They will, if they qualify for that minimum GPA, they'll along with their transcript score report card at the end of the summer, they'll include an invitation to apply. And one of the things that we did, that we try to do like at the beginning of 10th grade is to go ahead, we're always beginning the end with mine, so take stock of your relationships now with your teachers, because these are the teachers now who will be writing these recommendations. And so think about your goals, think about maybe how I need to improve. So we've been having those conversations with them, so they could be thinking about that for the rest of the year.
All right, so I know I touched on standardized testing a minute ago, but here are the dates for that. You guys probably all, if your students are taking this test, you have these on your calendars already, hopefully. So on October 11th, only test takers are coming that day. So if you don't know yet, your kids don't have to come to school if they're not taking the PSAT. So unless you opted in for your sophomore to take the PSAT, they don't have school on that Wednesday, or that Tuesday, Wednesday, yeah. Yes, that's what's right now. And then the pre-ACT is October 24th, that's a Tuesday. Once again, only test takers come that day, so all the sophomores will come that day. And then the SAT and ACT, if you want to just kind of get a heads up into how often they're offered, you can go to collegeboard.org or act.org to look at those test dates, just to kind of give you an idea of, in the next couple of years, when your student's ready to take all those tests, to kind of see how often those are offered.
When we went to college, it was always SAT everybody.
Yeah.
And now I hear it's ACT. What's the consensus there?
So colleges don't view them any differently. They're happy to accept either one. Cindy gives a whole presentation on the history of these two tests, but so tell me if I'm doing it justice. So back in the day, the SAT was more of an East Coast test, and the ACT was more of a West Coast test. Midwest.
Or middle of the country.
Middle of the country. See, I'm not doing it justice. And so it's been working its way east ever since. The state of North Carolina has adopted the ACT as the standard test for all juniors. So there used to be a writing test that all juniors took in their junior year. And so the past maybe 3 years ago, they adopted the ACT as that, which is nice because that gives students a free crack at it. Well, it's nice for parents because it gives students a free crack at it. So that's $55 less you're spending. And it's on his regular school day, so that's one less Saturday, 8 a.m. they have to be at a testing site. And so then the practice ACT is what they'll take in 10th grade to kind of give them a baseline to see where they are and get them ready for that. There's not many differences now, especially with the new formatting. The ACT has a science section, but it's really more scientific reading. The SAT does not have a science section. The maths are a little different. Sometimes the math can go a little bit more in depth on the SAT. The ACT is a lot faster paced. So once your student has had a chance to try both of them, which is nice because they get that in 10th grade and then they get the PSAT in 11th grade, we can sit with them and kind of see, okay, it looks like you might be doing a little bit better on this one, or you may be more of an SAT kid or an ACT kid, because colleges don't need to see multiple tests from each format. They're happy to accept whichever one you feel like is your better test. Does that help a little bit?
And all that will happen in 11th grade as we're sitting with you, the families and students, formulating a testing plan. So that'll kind of come together. 10th grade is just kind of practicing and seeing what it's like and just what the testing environment's like if they even choose to do that. Some people, you want to be really careful because you don't want their first testing experience to be traumatizing, and because they're not going to know that they're going to be, if you have a student that's taken it in 10th grade, just for kicks we say, they're not going to know a lot of content, and so, because it's an 11th grade test. So we try to tell them, just go see what it's like and what the testing environment, what the pacing feels like. That way when you go into it, your 11th grade, you'll know what to expect, and then you can you won't be quite as nervous, and you can just focus on the test. But if you have a child that will just, with testing anxiety, we don't recommend it. So we just recommend you talking with us if you're, like if you're a 9th grade parent now and you're wondering next year should they take it, just you feel free to check in with one of us and we can talk about that.
And they'll all get practice on a standardized test for that pre-ACT.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions about testing? Yeah.
So they take the practice SAT and the practice ACT in 10th, or is it practice ACT in 11th?
The practice ACT is in 10th grade. All of the sophomores will take that. There is the option, if you signed up over the summer, the window is closed to do it, so sorry. If you didn't already sign up for your sophomore to take the optional PSAT this year, then they won't. They'll take the practice ACT, which will give them a great practice at that standardized testing format, kind of knowing like the pacing and the timing of things. We offer it as an option for our sophomores if they would like to sign up. We have less than half every year sign up, so it's not like everyone in the school takes it. But then as a junior, we offer the PSAT to all of our juniors free of charge to families, because we think it's a great way to give them that baseline of where they are with their testing.
We wanted to talk with you a little bit about a couple of tools that you as families are going to be able to have access to. And our school has committed to using Naviance, which each grade level uses it in different ways. And it's actually some of you have anybody got an email from us about resetting a password? Okay, so we're starting to go through the alpha, and hopefully by the end of the week, everybody, if you're not already on, if you had an older student, you should already have access to. We try to link your not new student, but your younger student, I should say, to the account. So look for that from us, and then definitely reset your password or follow the instructions on there, and you will create a parent account. Your students, not 9th graders, but your 10th, this is for 10th grade only parents. 10th graders are using this on a daily basis with us when they meet with us in seminar. So again, that's how you connect to that, but again, that's through the email that we're sending out to you. So just look for that 10th grade parents. So 10th graders, what we're doing, 9th graders, 9th grade, again, we're not using it very much, but what I would recommend, like Jessica said, is go ahead and maybe even work or have a little folder or something and remind your students to keep track of what their activities and what they're doing in 9th grade. And then in 10th grade, how we'll be using Naviance is we have a little portfolio resume section, and we allocate time for them to kind of dump their activities in there. Some of them are better at that than others. In 11th grade, we've really been getting on them, because we have our 12th grade now that we're meeting with, and the ones that really used it really well all throughout high school have their resume already in place, and all they're doing is they're printing a PDF of it, and that's their college application. Their activities are just, going right in really smoothly, and it really saves them time. In 10th grade, we also, one of the things that we're doing is doing learning style inventories through there. You will be able to see that as a parent, to see the results of that. In 11th grade, we'll be tying all this in together. So 10th grade, we're going to be doing interest inventories. We're going to be thinking about their values, what's important to them. And the goal is not to box them in, but the goal is to just get them think about a lot of things that they haven't thought of before. We use a lot of videos. There's Road Trip Nations where students will, in Naviance, you can see this too, there's a feature where there are videos, and you see college students. It's actually an old MTV, those that kind of go way back, but it's an old MTV show, and they're college students, and they take this big RV, this van, and they go on road trips, and they interview all these really interesting people. The guys that did what are the t-shirts called? The good, Life is Good t-shirts, and like, how did you get started in that? And Ira Glass interviews. So they're really cool, they're really informal, and we're teaching them, hopefully, how to connect with their resources and ask questions and learn in a kind of a non-traditional way too. In 11th grade, we're really starting to gear up in our college plan. Oh, and I do want to say about 10th grade, because we need your help with this, parents. And 9th graders can kind of get a head start. 9th grade parents, you can get a head start on this.
In 10th grade, one of the things that we try to do as a culminating activity at the end of the year is we try to get students to practice networking and practice in doing an informational interview. And our goal is for them not to do this just a one time. We want them to see, like when the Road Trip Nation, we want them to see, you're going to be doing this in college. You might be doing this when you're 30 or 35 too. This is something that's just a lifelong skill. But we're going to look for us to be sending out information. We're going to scaffold it, so the first thing they'll do is they'll email their parents and say, Mom and Dad, can we sit down this weekend and maybe this is what I'm thinking, a person that, a job that I'm interested in, can you help me? Or they'll email a teacher. But we're really trying to get them to send a formal email to you so they can practice doing a professional email. And so look for them and help them, help them brainstorm and come up with people. And then they'll do a formal email and ask for an informational interview, and we'll model that for them so they'll see what that looks like. So parents, we do need your help with the brainstorming because we know that they may be relying on you to get them there, and that's an organizational piece, but look for more information for our 10th graders. Oftentimes that leads to cool internships or independent studies ideas. We've seen that we've seen really cool things come out of that from those interviews. So, and again, figuring out, ooh, that's not what I thought it was. I mean, again, that's just as important. And so what are the pieces that you liked? What did you not like? So they don't think that a veterinarian is just like, holding warm little puppies all day long. That's not what it is. Well, you saw the, you do see the tough parts of that job, the business parts of that job. The responsibility, the insurance you have to pay if you want to be a veterinarian. So all those pieces that that we're hoping they'll get. College planning in Naviance. There's so many tools in Naviance. I can't wait for you to get your hands on it. It's really fun. There's some college match tools, so you can go in and add some filters. Our students are going to be learning how to do that. We have 11th graders are going to be spending their time searching schools and finding that right fit. Now that I know a little bit about myself in 10th grade, so 11th grade, how do I find the schools that fit me? Not, I want that school, so what do I have to do to get into that school? So that's where we're going with this, and Naviance is a really good tool to do that. There's scholarship information, financial aid information there. This is what, I know you can't see that very well, but this is the homepage of Naviance. But what I do want to show you is that colleges, let's see what that is. Let's see, I'm thinking about, yes, I can't even read anymore. I was saying that. The second link, where it says links, if you look on that second link, it says live binders. I promise you it says that. But that is where anytime that we get information, like if we get information about gap year programs or SAT prep information, it's like an electronic binder, and we store any good stuff that we find, we store it on that live binder. So if you're, oh good, you really can't. So we have all these different tabs, honors programs, if you're interested in honors programs around. It has our syllabus of all the seminars. If you really are still wondering after you leave here what we do, it's on there. And then, so all kinds of information on there. That was not good. I know, exactly. Okay, perfect. I'll keep talking. So 11th grade, guys, and then 12th grade, they actually use the Naviance to apply for colleges. So there's things that they'll be able to access. They can't access, we give them access to certain things each year, so they can't really see everything all at once. But in 12th grade, they'll be able to use that. And we actually upload transcripts, we upload recommendations in that, so it's a great, yeah, it probably just takes a second. Oh, here you go. What's that? So one of the things that you can see when you guys get on and start playing is you can click on the colleges tab. Again, 10th graders are going to be in the career tab most of the time. But you can click on the colleges tab and you can see that our students do, even though we're a fairly young program, our students do get accepted into college, and some of them get really creative and apply to Hawaii. And we've had students that are in Ireland, we've had students that are in England, and so, they really, you know, schools do, our kids really do apply to a lot of different places. And these are where most of our students are attending. So if you get on Naviance, you can actually kind of hover over the flags and you can see exactly the names of the schools. We can go, if you can actually see the list of the schools, and it just kind of scrolls down if you're interested. Want to see who makes it in here? And these are the 20 most popular colleges. So with that said, if you have a student who's thinking and talking about going to California, let them talk. Because, you know, 9th and 10th grade, just let them talk, let them get excited, let them dream, let them research. Because you know what happens, you know, they'll stay close to us. I've got 2 that are in college, they'll stay close. No. It's good when they go away too, it's exciting, I'm kidding, it's exciting when they go away. So, even when they go to Ireland and England, I promise you we've had Ireland, some that go internationally too. And gap year, I must say, we have one in Costa Rica right now who we're following, and she's having she's already, when she comes back next year, she's applied to college, she's in, and she's going to be ready to go and step right in when she gets back to from Costa Rica. So, as Jessica mentioned, we do have we're busy at lunch. I mean, we don't get a break. We're there in the fall. We have somebody here every day at lunch. Sometimes, like today, we have 2. We try not to do that, but it just happens sometimes. We open the doors for 9th graders, but we don't push it, and because we don't want them to get burned out on it. And 10th grade, your parents are going, well, can't you push my kid a little bit? So what we're trying to do in 10th grade is, again, we're trying to just, you know, explore a little bit. So we do in seminar require them to sign up for 1 college visit. And we tell them, this is not, you're not making any decisions right now. It's a low pressure. This is your chance to hear the upperclassmen, what the upperclassmen are asking. So that way when you get there, you'll kind of have a good idea of what good questions to ask. Because I will say, our reps will leave here and they'll say, I had a note from a rep last year and said, we've never had students that ask the kind of questions that your students do after sending a thank you note. And they were, they're pretty impressive, our students are. And again, if there are any colleges that don't come on campus, not all of them do. NC State, Chapel Hill, you know, they have to be smart. They have to do college fairs. They have to do, you know, consortiums, and we do that with them as well. But we won't be able to get all colleges here, but we'll do our best, and I promise you we'll send out emails. We may not always get the response we want, but we'll definitely invite them. So 10th grade required, so you can go home and ask them, you know, which colleges have you seen? I know Miss Amory and Miss Smith have asked you to sign up for one. And you can sign up for them on Naviance. There's a place where they can do that. And our 11th and 12th graders are just in there every day, so taking advantage of it. And this is just, again, an example of a screenshot of what Naviance looks like and how students sign up for it. So, I'm going to let you talk about this since we're doing
that. We are hosting a parent book talk in January. It's on January 16th at 7 p.m. And the book we're doing this year is the same book we did 2 years ago. Not that you all know that, but we're bringing it back because we love it so much. It's called Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. I love that title. Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. It's by Frank Bruni of the New York Times. It's a great, short, quick read. I highly recommend it. This book was required reading for all of the incoming juniors at the North Carolina School of Science and Math this year. So juniors and their parents. So a lot of schools are reading it. It's fantastic. So you'll hear more about it, but you can go ahead and ask for it for Christmas, or you can get it earlier, get a few friends, one of you buy one, share it around. It's a fantastic book. There's another version that has a white cover. That is from a few years ago. This is a new edition. Hasn't changed all that much. So the other one's fine too. The gist is the same. Where you go is not who you'll be. It's really all about trying to reclaim the joy of this process instead of letting it be so miserable and stressful and anxiety-ridden. I think our society has let it become this scary thing for kids and parents. And this book really helps you get a grip a little bit on reality and all the amazing options that our students have. They get to go to college. How cool is that? You know, we try to really get them to think about all the thousands of places they can go and not obsess about the 2 or 3 they might not get into. So this book really helps with that, and it's really good for parents to read this one as well, to help you set the tone, set the conversation in your family about good fit, about quality, about good value, all these great things, and not just think about the brand name schools, like the brand name clothes, that there's a lot of amazing educational options out there. So we hope it helps you reclaim the joy as well. Just a few other announcements. The U visits that I mentioned earlier are coming up on October 12th and 13th. This is a good time if you would like 10th graders, maybe 9th graders, we'll see, you don't have to, but to go visit a college. These days, if you've not visited a college in a while, I'll just get you up to speed. You do not have to call to register. They don't want you to call. If you call the admissions office, they will say, hang up and go to our website. Please register there. So you go to the admissions section on a college website, and then you'll follow the links to visit. You'll click on that. A calendar will come up. You'll click the days. You'll click the time. Most colleges have 1 or 2 tours every day that are offered. So you can find a time that works for you. You choose it, and then you get all the information that way. And we walked through this with sophomores. Yeah, it was sophomore seminar 2 weeks ago, where they saw how to go ahead and register. So you can put this in the hands of your 10th graders and say, you all know how to do this. We're going to go on October 12th. Which school do you want to see that we can drive to? And go ahead and register. Here's your limits of how far away it can be, and they can go ahead and take ownership of this process. I think it's really important as you go through this journey to help your students take ownership of it. This is a time of transition from when you're in charge of their education to a time when they're going to be in charge of it. And so it's good whenever possible to start handing them those controls. And something like registering for a campus tour helps them get a little more excited instead of, oh, my mom's dragging me to this school, I don't want to go. To say, I'm going, come on, Mom, let's go, come on, Dad. We are signed up, so we do encourage you to get started. Some 9th graders might want to go, I call it window shopping in 9th grade, if they want to go, maybe tag along with an older sibling. Some 9th graders do just want to see what's out there, and that's fine if they're ready. If they're not ready, don't push just yet. That might be a little traumatic. So October 12th and 13th, and then again February 15th and 16th are the U-Visit days this year. National Portfolio Day is for our artists, our visual artists, and that is on November 11th. This is a time where visual artists can register and go to, it's a hotel in Charlotte, a big convention center, and they can bring their artwork and get it evaluated by college admissions officers from art schools. And they'll get a lot of great feedback. They'll get practice with criticism because it hurts. So they'll get to say, what do you think? And then get told how to improve. It's good for artists to start going through that process early so they can start improving. National Portfolio Day is a wonderful opportunity. The Gap Year Fair is in February. We'll post that when we get more information about that. But the Gap Year Fair is a fun time to learn about different programs that are offered as options for stepping right out of high school instead of going straight to college, to do some other things as well. We've had a lot of kids do gap years for all kinds of different reasons, and we do recommend they think about it. And then finally, the college fair, the great big college fair in Charlotte is on March 18th this year. It's huge. All the high school kids in Charlotte go. It's crazy. So you've got to really prepare for that, and we'll talk to students ahead of time about what that'll be like and how to prepare. You don't have to go, but it's a good time to go and see a lot of colleges from all over the place that come here and travel around as a group. There are hundreds and hundreds of colleges that you can visit with, so do consider that March 18th. And then a final reminder, have fun. Don't forget to enjoy this process. It will be over before you know it. For those of you who've been through this before, suddenly your kids have gone through this and they're gone, and they're off in college, and your whole set of worries changes to something completely different, and you wish they were still in high school worried about this stuff. So we do encourage you to enjoy this process with your student. And then finally, from our mission statement, we believe that college admissions should be a process that feels hopeful, magical, exciting, non-threatening, and self-reflective. So we hope through this journey, students can get to know themselves better and find their best fit. There we go. All right, so that is the end of our formal presentation, but we do want to open it up if you all have questions for us. We're all here for you. Some people have specific questions, maybe some more general, but we are here if anyone's got any big ones. I'll open it up. Yes?
I was wondering if you guys still play like you used to as a group and maybe go see colleges, or is that something that you don't do anymore?
Yeah, we don't do that anymore because it just got to be everybody, there were so many, everybody was just looking at so many different schools. But what we do, what we are able to do is if we hear of other people going, I heard this group was going on, we start to hear rumbles of pockets of people going here and there. And so we might, be able to say, hey, I heard this group's going. And so, just because, we like to spend, well, now Jessica and I are spending our days on U-visits in our pajamas writing counselor recs. So we were able to do that in the beginning, but that's what we're doing now. And then we do try to, Jessica and I really work hard to go around, and Cindy does too, all throughout the year and visit we do bus tours. And see, we've seen over 100 schools, colleges from all over the place. So, and we try, and it really helps because we can get them on campus. Once we start to visit them, it's like, well, we went to visit you, we can visit us. So, yes, so it's nice. So we just try to really maximize use our time wisely to do that. But if you feel like you've got a student that would do better in group, let us know, and we might be able to keep our ears open.
Okay, in the back.
For the 10th graders that are taking the PSAT and the practice ACT, do you expect them to study or just to take it cold?
They do not need to study for that. Now, it's not a bad idea to look at the booklets they're given in school, just to see what the questions feel like, know what those subsections are, but don't buy them the prep book yet. Don't put them in a class. That's coming. It's coming. We'll tell you that next year. But this year, it's just exposure.
Okay, thank you.
You didn't mention, but I felt like last year, maybe years past, you've invited some of the alumni to come back to talk about their college experience. Do you guys still do that?
We do, every year. It's built into our seminar curriculum. It's 11th and 12th graders that participate in that every year. And it's a lot of fun. It's my favorite day of the year, actually. It's really, the teachers come, Joy, it's great. And we get to hear what these kids are doing and the amazing adventures they're having in college and what they're learning. It's so cool to see these kids that we got to watch grow up, and then they've got it together in college. It's amazing. So teenagers like to hear from them more than us. So we bring them on to talk about their experiences, and the kids ask great questions. It's usually in December that we do it right before winter break. So it'll be on a Friday. So don't let them skip seminar. We are always doing something cool. Yes.
The National Honor Society, how important is that?
It is so not a deal. It is so not a deal breaker, believe me. I think the important thing is that they're doing,
If they're doing, if they're participating in activities that they genuinely love to do, I think that's probably one of the most important things that we could tell students is, in terms of applying for colleges. If you're doing what you love to do and doing it often and digging deep and where you're becoming a leader in it because you love to do it, all the other stuff is going to fall into place. I think that's our biggest message that we want. We have a lot of students that that's their thing. They want, that's really important to them. And so we want to honor that, and we want to honor it the way that our national, that the national organization expects us as a local chapter to honor it. So we're learning along the way, what those, what that looks like. But again, it's those 4 pillars that they both, even though they have that minimum GPA, we've got to be able to show impact, leadership in those other areas too. And that's why we're really trying to expose that. We didn't even introduce you guys to Laura. I don't think she needs an introduction, but Laura Mott and Jen Chapman are helping us out in 10th grade seminar. Helping, you guys are doing 10th grade seminar for us. So you'll be seeing emails from them as well, because Jessica and I and Cindy are really working with our 11th and 12th graders. And then what Jessica and I are going to go back and do is we're going to switch around. We kind of just do a little merry-go-round and go hop around. And Jessica and I are going to try to get back into sophomore seminar when they're working on their informational interviews, because we're writing recommendations for them, and it's really about Jessica and I, forming those relationships with our students. And that's a really important piece that we want to see their thinking, and we want to see, okay, now that you've done these activities, we want to hear what you're thinking and where you're going next year. So we'll be traveling back in. So, but thanks, Laura. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Well, kind of my issue is I've got I call a non-sports child.
Right, and it's important to them.
Well, I'm curious how much you need to actually have some formalized school function within the resume.
I think they need to be involved, even if they're working. We have many students who work 20 hours a week, and I will say we have students who work at Stables. They're working at Stables every week, and they write the most brilliant essays about that, and they can't be involved in school activities after schools because that's what they do, but they're doing what they love, and it really, when you see them their senior year, it'll really come through. I think that's the piece of it. We don't want them to, that's why we have the AP limit too. We don't want them to give up to play a game. We don't want to give up their passion, who they really are, just to kind of play a game. You do have to, there are certain expectations, but, we don't want them to give up who they are either. So. Yes?
Is it possible to get ninth grade parents to get on ambiance?
We could do that. We could do that. It may be later on. It's kind of a process, so it may be a while before we can do that. But we can let us look into that and see if we can do that. Yeah, it's a really good tool. You can still see some of the tools that we use through our blog and the live binders and things like that, and some of the college search tools that. A lot of the things that are on the live binder that we have on Naviance, so you can see some of those things too, those resources. Any other questions?
Yep. I'm going to follow up with you just because I hear this a lot, so this is a little piggyback on that. The question I guess would be too is what I keep hearing. When we were in school, those of us that are in our 40s, the resume, like the more you did, like we all knew those kids that were going crazy, volunteering for here, and this club here, and this sport here, and this thing here. That's what it seemed to be, what it looked like. Now what I think I'm learning from you all and what you're saying is it's more of quality versus quantity. So you don't want to, if they love it, great, but you don't want to kill them. I dated a guy about killing him. He was just going through everything to get his resume this long.
Well, and you don't want to list what you don't.
And that's not what they're looking for.
They're not looking for a list.
So I think that's the important piece.
Right. If you're a soccer player, do you take the opportunity to coach young ones, or middle schools, or elementary school, and those are the kinds of pieces that they're.
I guess I'm wondering more formalized versus outside of school. Do colleges sit and look and place of greater value because it is associated with the school, you know, a sporting event, a National Honor Society versus some outside school activity, which it's probably much tougher for them to judge what is the quality of, you know, the person going and following this item.
Right, right. It's hard to say, but it really depends. I've seen the most, like I've seen a student that's that's in archery, but is able to talk in her essay about all the competitions and how she kind of did something that was, she really couldn't talk to her friends about because they didn't know anything about, but,
So it relates more to what else.
Right, right. And just being authentic and real, because I think that can come alive in the application. And that's where we'll work with them on that piece of it, is bringing that out in their authentic self. And just, we call it, we want to reveal who you are. Oh, bless it, yeah.
We're losing everybody. I just want to say thank you all for coming. If you have additional individual questions, we'll hang out up here.